5, and we're going to go back to our top story. Seventh Heaven actor Stephen Collins allegedly confessing to molesting young girls. Collins, you'll remember, played the pastor dad on the show Seventh Heaven. That was 11 seasons. TMZ obtained a tape where he apparently confessed to his estranged wife that he had inappropriate sexual contact with several young girls. The wife then recorded his confession during a therapy session, apparently, and now the New York Police Department has launched a criminal investigation. We have a lot of questions surrounding this, and we're going to go to our legal team here. We have defense attorney Leo Terrell as well as defense attorney Mark Haushalter, who is also a former prosecutor. You can, if you want to put on that hat, go ahead and do that. And I know some of the questions we can't answer because all the facts aren't out. But let's start with the recording. His estranged wife made this recording. There is a therapist voice you hear in the recording. Why? And how does she do it legally?
Well, I'll tell you right now, on the advice of counsel, she recorded. Now, whether or not it's legal, there's a problem with that because I think that there's not a current crime, there's not an imminent danger, and so there may be grounds for that tape to be excluded if it's going to be used against him in any type of criminal prosecution. It may not be allowed in.
And something that we've just heard, that the wife saying, I didn't leak it to TMZ, I didn't leak it to TMZ. Something may have happened with that, with the other attorney saying, hey, why don't we record it? And then all of a sudden, the statute doesn't exactly match up how the attorney thought it is. Because what Leo and I were saying is that there may be an issue with one of the exceptions is kidnapping, blackmail, extortion, all being imminent.
Right.
They're coming. Right now, these are cases that they're talking about.
These are 40 years, guys, these are 40 years old, 40 years ago.
And we were talking about the other thing is, what about the privilege? Therapist-patient privilege and your expectation of privacy.
Yeah, but you have an expectation of privacy, but correct me if I'm wrong, a therapist is also a mandated reporter. So even if you didn't have the conversation recorded, wouldn't it be incumbent upon the therapist to report the fact that he admitted doing this?
It depends on the, well, of course, I agree with that 100%, but we don't know the age of these crimes. We're talking about 20 years ago, 15, 40 years ago?
We believe it was in the 1970s.
And so where's the duty to report a current crime? How much information was there, and whether or not there was a threat to a young child at that particular time?
Okay, so let's take this now from the prosecutorial standpoint. You have an investigation going on in New York. You have another investigation going on in Los Angeles because it's possible that one of these alleged incidents took place in Los Angeles. There are at least 3 girls that he has admitted, reportedly or allegedly admitted to having touched and having placed their hands on him. What do you do as a prosecutor with what has come out so far?
Well, I think the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office is going to do nothing until LAPD does a thorough investigation. Remember, LAPD looked at this once and they had witness problems. So I think they're going to want to get a clear-cut case on what happened, and I think they're going to watch carefully what's happening in New York before they make any decision.
Oh, I'm going to put you in New York then, Haushalter. What do you do if you're in New York? I mean,
I'm in New York
in other words, how vigorously do you think the state's going to go after
I think
40-year-old
very
girls?
much so.
Well, I'll tell you
very
right
much
now,
so.
also, too, is how much Collins is going to do and his lawyer is going to do to hush up all these victims.
Well, that's what I was going to...
This is hush. This is time, if I'm Collins' attorney,
I'm
going to hush up everybody. And if they're not coming forward, it's going to be a cat and mouse game for the New York Police Department to find them.
Leo, wait a minute. Hold on now. You're almost... How are you going to hush up people?
You're giving hush money?
Listen, when I say hush them, I'm simply saying... We don't know the relationship between Collins and these people. We don't know if it's an adversarial relationship. We don't know what these victims are currently.
We do know that one of the women did come forward and did admit it recently. We also know that one of them was apparently a relative of his first wife.
Right.
So there is connection. We know who they are. So your question is whether they're hostile or not?
Are they going to be hostile, friendly witnesses? Are they going to cooperate with the police? We don't know. And they're going to be lawyered up, too, probably.
But once again, go back to your now Collins attorney.
Yes.
What do you do?
Well, first of all, Collins doesn't say a single word. Period. He doesn't talk to anyone. You never talk to anyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What was the number 1 rule?
Yeah.
Never talk to the police.
All right.
Secondly, if I am Collins' attorney, I'm going to talk to Collins and give me names and numbers right now of every one of these victims. I'm going to go talk to them.
You can do that?
I'm going to have a private investigator
That's not
talk to them.
It's not tampering.
I'm just trying to find out information.
Okay.
I'm just trying to explore information. So I'm going to say, give me names and numbers. I'm going to have my private investigator talk to these people.
And finally, Mark, Collins, 67 years old. If there was a crime committed, it was more than 40 years ago, not to in any way diminish the possibility of the severity of the crime back then. What do you think? What do you think his chances are what do you think the chances of prosecution are?
I think prosecution is going to be high. I think the chances of them going after him are going to be high just because the tape is so darn damning.
All right. Leo Terrell, Mark Haushalter, thanks both for being here. And we'll follow the story, no doubt about it, here in Hollywood. Susan.